Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. My name is Allie and welcome to the top comment where I read and react to insane internet chaos in the form of Reddit stories. So if you like this type of content, please don't forget to subscribe. It is totally free and it means a lot to me. All right, happy Sunday everybody. Happy 420 to everybody who celebrates. I know I'm gonna be celebrating later today for sure. It is my favorite unofficial holiday in case you didn't know. I'm gonna be celebrating once I get off of work, and I just think it's a really fun day. So to all of my gardeners out there, happy 420 babes. I have a very special couple of stories for you today. They're gonna be posted later this afternoon after this mashup episode goes out, but for now we're gonna stick to the mashup. Today we are talking all about revenge, whether it be ice cold, piping hot, petty, or professional. We are getting into all of the goodies today. So if you have already tuned in to Tuesday and Thursday's episode, like always, go ahead and use the timestamps down at the bottom and skip to the bonus stories if you want. If not, you're with me. Buckle up because we're going to get right into it. All right, story number 1 comes from r/petty revenge. And it says, "Okay, Dan, you want to give my number out to strangers? I have a really memorable phone number, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 level distinct, so people often think I'm making it up when I give it out. For years now, some businessman named Dan, I'll leave out his last name, has been giving out my number to clients or people he doesn't want to deal with just to brush them off. I've usually been polite when these people call, just letting them know they have the wrong number. Over time, I've picked up a surprising amount of info about Dan just by talking to the caller, such as his full name, job title, the company he works for, and city he is in. He's a very real person. I have never wanted to get involved or reach out to him directly, though. But after years of this nonsense, I have officially had enough. Lately, when someone calls asking for Dan, I tell them he moved to Arizona because of some legal issues and embezzlement. And if they ask if there's a new contact at that company, I say the whole operation is under investigation. I really hope this rumor makes its way back to him because Dan, stop giving out my number. Seriously." Oh my God, that is well deserved. I hate spam calls and spam texts. And for anybody out there that's going to say that this guy should have just changed his number, no, Dan needs to stop giving out his number to random strangers and deal with them like a big boy. Clearly, he is a grown man with a fully developed frontal cortex, and he is still out here making childish decisions. So no, OP, don't change your phone number. I love that you got revenge on this guy. This was so well deserved. You know, this story is new as of a day ago, so I don't think we have any updates yet, but we are going to dive into the comments. The top comment on this one says, "An old employee at my company, I never met them, gave out his old work number to people he didn't want to deal with. Since I inherited that number, it was not fun. At first, I was nice and thought it was just people he didn't talk to, but after giving it a while, he was obviously still giving them my number intentionally. I started telling people, oh, Michael hasn't had that number for years. He only gives it out to people he doesn't actually want to talk to. Of course, then I get the calls, and I have to tell you that Michael thinks so little of you that he gave out his old number intentionally to avoid you. It's a move for sure." Remarkably, after 3 to 4 times of that, he stopped giving his old number out. Wow, at least you caught him before it had gone years down the rabbit hole like it did with OP of this story. That's pretty funny. I mean, you're not telling a lie by telling them why he gave out the wrong number, and honestly, it's not going to come back on you. It's going to come back on the idiot who decided to give out the wrong number in the first place. You don't have to give people the wrong number intentionally because they will find out, especially if you have people that are all for petty revenge like these two. The next comment says, "Wow, that's devious and an inventive way to retaliate. Kudos on thinking outside the box, although maybe it's time Dan got a taste of real deceit." The next comment says, "Why stop there? Go wilder. He is currently on a swingers cruise, or he was caught selling and is on the run. Last I heard, he is under investigation for insert crime. I'm not sure. Maybe he's even at a Diddy party." The list goes on. The next comment says, "My dad's old phone number was 1 digit off from the phone number keypad from a local volleyball bar. Girls were constantly calling around 7:30 to 10 asking if their boyfriend boyfriend was there. At first, my dad wouldn't tell them it's a wrong number, but many of these girls just wouldn't listen. At first, my dad would tell them it's a wrong number, but many of these girls just wouldn't listen. They insisted that my dad was just covering for their boyfriend and would start yelling at him. Finally, dad started saying, "Oh, sure, he's here, but he's busy talking to Cheryl," or whatever random girl name he could think of at that moment. Donna, Michelle, Caroline, Angelique, you name it. He could hear the jealous girlfriend on the phone absolutely explode with rage, demanding that the boyfriend be put on the line immediately. But dad just said, "Sorry, we're really busy right now," and would hang up. Man, your dad's a savage. That's funny. Who knows how many girls went storming over to that place looking for their boyfriends, hoping to catch him cheating with Charisse or whoever. I actually had to look up what a volleyball bar was because I quite frankly had no idea. And apparently it's just a bar where people go and play volleyball, but I'm honestly not surprised that it exists. And I'm honestly not surprised that girlfriends are looking for their scummy boyfriends out at the volleyball bar. That seems very on brand. All right, the last comment says, why not give people his actual work number and maybe even the company address? Imagine how confused he would be if people started calling him saying some nice person gave me his real number when they gave him a fake one. Yeah, you could definitely give out his real number as long as it's a work line. Don't go and be petty enough to give out somebody's personal phone number unless they already gave out your personal phone number, in which case you're really just getting back at them and that's okay. But if someone's giving out your work number and you give out their personal number, you are stepping into a-hole territory and we don't love that. All right, Dan, I hope you're out there watching, bro. Stop giving out fake numbers. Take on the responsibility yourself. All right. The next story also comes from r/petty revenge, and it says, revenge served cold. I've got a great example of petty revenge. Not mine, but my late partner's. I was thinking about it the other day and figured it definitely belonged here. He used to work as a bartender in a modern bar, lots of cool IPAs, open to all ages, and even had a toy box for people who brought their kids. And in that toy box was a kazoo. One afternoon, a pair of parents let their kid get their hands on said kazoo right at the start of the day, and the kid did not let it go, like ever. These parents managed to find a table furthest from the bar out on the terrace, and their kids spent hours blowing that thing nonstop, annoying the hell out of everyone else while the parents didn't lift a finger the entire time. The afternoon went by, the evening rolled in around 8 p.m. They suddenly remembered they had a child. They came back, picked her up, dropped off the kazoo back in the toy box, and headed for the car. And that's when the petty revenge hit. My partner grabbed the kazoo, caught up with them just before they reached the car, handed it to the kid with a big smile, and said she seemed to love it so much. The look on the parents' faces, too polite to say no, was worth every screechy moment of that noisy afternoon. So yeah, not my own story, but I think it deserves to be told. You know, I'm very glad that you came here to post this story. I think this is lovely. Noisy toys and children are a whole different breed of migraine that I personally cannot take. But you know, if you have some really bad parents that just want the bartenders to take care of their kid, apparently, I'm assuming this story didn't take place in America, because leaving your child at a bar like that is, I don't even think kids are allowed in bars. I mean, maybe if it was like a restaurant bar, I guess, but in terms of like a bar, that's absolutely not. Kids are not allowed in those. So I imagine this is somewhere else, but petty revenge nonetheless, because you just know that kid wailed on that kazoo the entire ride home in a tiny little car where there's no place to escape the screeching, bleeding ear migraine that I'm sure that kid gave them. Rightfully so. Take care of your damn kids. All right, the top comment on this one says, toys that make noise should be against the Geneva contract. They deserved it. You're very right. Like I said, kids' toys that make noise. Personally, I have about a 5-minute timer on my neurospicy brain before it just goes pew. And I can't take it anymore. So I completely understand where you're at with it. Even sometimes my dog toys get a little annoying, but my dogs are just so cute that I don't really care. To be fair, I don't understand why literal children would be allowed in a bar to begin with. Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. I mean, that's kind of what I was saying earlier, but there are different countries with different rules, so maybe it was okay. But nonetheless, if you're going to bring your kid out to a bar or any restaurant or anything like that, as As a former bartender and server myself, please do not bring noisy toys. Have y'all ever heard of a coloring book before? Did you know that those exist? Did you know that you can easily pack one of those for your kid to do in a restaurant? Don't bring out all the booming and banging toys that sit there and make all the noise in the world. You're bound to piss somebody off. The next comment says, these toys are only acceptable when they're gifts from aunts and uncles. Like the time I gave my 3-year-old niece a toy microphone that played a couple of lines from Let It Go from Disney's Frozen every single time the button was pressed. This was like 10 years ago, and I don't think my sister has forgiven me yet. You played the long game, honey. You waited until she had a kid just to get revenge, and I can definitely appreciate that. Someone replies to this comment and says, many years ago, when my brother started having children, he informed me that if I ever gave toys that involved noise or water, he would get even. And I knew how diabolical he could get, so I respected that. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and I am so here for it. The next comment says, certain noisy toys in my house take a very special battery that we don't have right now. There you go. Genius. That is a smart move. Protect your peace without fully crushing your kids' hopes and dreams. The next comment says, I have a buddy who traveled a lot for work. One week he stays home with his wife, a stay-at-home mom, and is traveling. When she comes home, he says, honey, you wouldn't believe it. All of the dozens of kids' toys were out of batteries, so I replaced them. She was so pissed. Oh my God. You get a D- for that parenting skill. You should just know at that point. So did he replace them while she was on vacation, or did he replace them right before she came home? Because if he replaced those batteries right before she came home, I think that she should divorce him, because that makes it sound like he hates his wife. Y'all are so messy with this petty revenge. This is too funny. The last comment says, we are childless and gave our nieces and nephews musical instruments from foreign travels. My siblings deserved this. I mean, hey, if you're gonna play the long game and you're gonna wait till they have kids to get revenge for your childhood, sometimes the long form revenge is better than the immediate revenge. Alrighty, the next story comes from r/revenge stories, and it says, I put my flatmate's dirty dishes in a vent above his bed. I, a 22-year-old man, am a graduate school student, and I have a condo which I lease out to 3 other guys. We all have our own bedrooms and have a shared kitchen and a lounge. I have been close with 2 of the guys for years and recently met the flatmate in question, who I'll call Ethan. I met Ethan in class, and he seemed like a nice guy and was generally entertaining, so when he mentioned to me that he broke up with his girl that he'd been staying with and didn't really have a stable living situation, I said he could move into my free room as long as he pays rent. He agreed, and it was great for a couple of months, but then I'd noticed there would be a lot more dirty dishes in the sink that wouldn't be done. For reference, I have a dishwasher, and there is a rule to do your own dishes. I'm not a neat freak or anything, but dishes in particular are a huge pet peeve for me. I noticed that most of the dishes were Ethan's, so I brought it up to him once, and he said he would do better, but not much changed. So one day I unscrewed the vent above his bed and put some dirty dishes up there and kept doing it over and over a period of a couple of weeks. Eventually he figured it out and got really pissed because he's been using air fresheners and incense, and the smell still wouldn't come out. He was a great guy otherwise, so I still want to be friends with him, but I just can't figure out how to get this man's dishes in the dishwasher. I'm gonna correct you on a couple of things here, OP. First of all, never live with somebody you don't know. Be so for real. Second of all, this is not a man that we're discussing. This is an absolute child who is probably used to mommy doing everything for him. I guarantee this is probably why his girlfriend kicked him out, because speaking from past experience, that's disgusting, and that will drive anybody crazy. Dirty dishes are disgusting. They stink. They can grow mold, which is dangerous to your health. And you have a dishwasher too. That's a whole nother thing. Rinse the plate, stick it in the damn machine, turn it on. It's that easy. This drives me nuts. My ex was this way, and I was the only one working. Like, he did not have a job. This grown man did not have a job, and he refused to clean. He refused to cook. He refused to do the dishes. And so one day when I came home from work, I just got so fed up, and I was like, you're gonna do these dishes and you're gonna do them right now. I took my dogs out for a walk or something, but I came home and he's like, oh, the dishes are done. They're just soaking. So I go outside and my camping cooler is full of dirty, soggy, disgusting, mold-grown, filthy dishes. And I absolutely snapped. I think that is what turned me into the type of person that I am now, where if even one thing is out of order in my house, I start to get anxiety. Also, OP, I want to call you out on something. You should have just put the damn dishes on the man's bed. Don't put them in the vent. That could be disastrous for the rest of your house. Like, I'm so serious. Mold is horrible. Mold is so gross. It's a huge allergen for a lot of people. I myself am extremely allergic to mold, and you basically could have poisoned your entire house with mold poisoning, which is not fun. So I love the revenge you took. Maybe use your brain a little bit more next time, but let's see what the comments have to say. The top comment says, I had a housemate like that in college. We put his dirty dishes into his pantry cabinet and left them there. He eventually did the dishes when he ran out. We each had our own set. Yeah, that's smart. You probably shouldn't be sharing dishes with this man. And if he can't do his dishes, he needs to be eating off of paper plates. This is really gross. This is making my skin crawl. The next comment says, he either does his part to clean or he's out. Period. You are not his mother. Exactly. You are not his mommy. Don't clean up after him, because quite frankly, all you're doing here is enabling him to keep going. So I would kick him to the curb and say, bye-bye. If he can't learn to do dishes, if you're 22, I would imagine he's probably around the same age as you. And that is well old enough to have a common concept of shared spaces and shared chores. And you should not even have to tell him to do his own dishes. The fact that he's just not, get rid of him, kick him out. You don't want to be friends with him. I don't care if he's cool, honey. There's 8 billion people on this earth. Go be friends with one of them who matches the same standards as you and has the same maturity level, because this man is disgusting. The next comment says, that's a great way to get ants in your vent. Just kick him out already. It's not your job to train him. That's 3 people, including myself, that want you to kick him out. So you are officially outnumbered, OP. He's gotta go. The next comment says, gross. You want to invite a rodent or insect infestation into your own home? Should have just put them in a bag or a box and left them on his bed. So message loud and clear and they would be done immediately. Yeah, you really should have put them on his bed. Don't put it in your vents next time. I didn't even think about the ants and the roaches and everything. That is so gross. The last comment says, and now you know why the girlfriend kicked him out. That is exactly what I said. I completely agree. I would have gotten rid of this man a long time ago. You should just, I mean, if you don't want to kick him out, you need to sit him down and have a conversation and say, do your dishes. I'm not your mom. Say it just like that to him, you know? Don't give him the chance to sit there and say, oh, well, I don't know how to do dishes. Rinse them, put them in the dishwasher. It's so easy. It is so basic. I have no sympathy for grown men who act like babies. But I hope your revenge was worth it, and I hope he gets his life together. And if not, bye-bye. Kick him to the curb. Take him out with the rest of his dirty, funky dishes. All right, the last petty revenge story that we are going to read today also comes from r/petty revenge, and it says, my neighbor takes up all the parking spaces on the street, so I made friends with the birds. Simple petty revenge. I have a neighbor who takes up all the free parking on our street and in front of my home with his trucks. 8 or 10 of them. He has also done lots of things to personally annoy me, like drive his dirt bikes through my front yard and letting his dog crap there right in front of me. So I befriended the local family of crows by feeding them their favorite things. Now I will occasionally see 5 or 6 crows waiting patiently in the trees in front of my house, crapping and looking especially creepy, but surprisingly not making a whole lot of noise to give away our secret to the other nicer neighbors. They have not crapped on my car in my driveway once, not one single time in all the past months I've been treating them. The trees mostly cover the street area anyways. Edit. If you know crows, they are legions, and if my neighbor decides to retaliate, there will surely be a full-on war. I love that you went full-blown Snow White against him and made friends with a murder of crows. That is just the best revenge story I have ever read. That is the pettiest of all the petty revenges, and I really appreciate your effort in this. And I'm sure the crows do too. Crows and ravens are incredibly, beautifully smart creatures. I mean, I just think that they're one of my favorite birds. They're so smart. They're so sweet. I used to feed them outside of the pot shop that I worked at, and they brought me a coin one time. It was the only thing I ever received from them after like months of feeding them, but it was really cool. All right, let's go ahead and dive into some of these comments. The top comment says, how Machiavellian you are to involve a murder of crows in your revenge plot. The next comment says, I have a crow army that patrols my whole neighborhood. They chase the hawks that hang around my neighbor's chickens. They call in other crows to help sometimes, and they like the peanuts I give them. Wow, that's amazing. How wonderful. The next comment says, you might call it a murder plot. The next comment says, I bought an old fixer-upper 2 houses from the lake, huge wraparound porch with a porch swing to sit, and watched the boats go by. It brought me peace as I was recovering from a year of cancer treatment. The street has a no parking more than 2 hours rule, which I love because I don't want to look at other people's cars, and other people on the street are mostly good at abiding by it. Well, apparently there's a neighbor around the corner on the lake who doesn't like the look of his car in his driveway, so he decided to start parking right in front of my eye line of the water, right on the corner of my street. So I just started walking my dog right by it on our usual route, but anytime the car was there, I'd have a few handfuls of birdseed in my pocket that I would toss under and around his car when I walked by. It took a few days, but he must have realized our street is bird territory and his driveway isn't so bad after all. I do want to befriend some crows though. Gotta up my game. That's pretty funny. Anybody who's gonna park like that definitely deserves to have revenge placed on them. And also, going back to the original story, who the hell owns 8 to 10 trucks of all things? That guy needs to have a reality check. If you have that many vehicles, my guy, go park them somewhere else. That is so obnoxious. The next comment says, get some unsalted peanuts in the shell. Being adopted by a murder of crows is awesome. That's so sweet. Maybe I'll try to start feeding them out here and make friends with them out here, and then I can give them my dog hair after I brush my dogs so that they can keep their nests warm during the winter. I just love animals. If I was a Disney princess, I would definitely be Snow White, in case you can't tell by now. All right, the last comment says, go to a thrift store and buy lots of small pieces of jewelry. They love shiny things and gifts, and keep an eye out. They like to gift back. That they do. Animals are so smart and so wonderful, and it clearly just goes to show that they know who the a-holes are in the situation. So, cheat on your wife with mine, I will burn your life to the ground. Way back in the early 2000s, I began to suspect that my wife was up to something. Our 2 kids, about 4 and 6, still young, but not so young they couldn't tell you something about what happened in their day. They started talking a lot about staying with my wife's parents during the day, which wasn't really that strange in and of itself, but since they lived about 90 minutes away, doing so 2 or 3 times a week seemed a bit much. That was basically every day she wasn't working at her part-time job. When I asked her about it, she denied it, but was never a good liar. So I started tracking the mileage on her car, and sure enough, she was driving an extra 400 miles or so per week. At that time, I knew some shit was going on. Then one day, I sat down at the computer and she had left a sticky note with her AOL password written on it next to the keyboard. I could not resist and logged in to read her emails and saw a few email exchanges between her and her college best friend, where they discussed how my wife was regularly screwing one of her ex-boyfriends from high school. No mention of the details about him other than my wife also talking about his wife, making fun of how she'd gotten fat after having kids. Anyway, I printed out these email exchanges and stashed them away. I still needed to know the details, so I called a friend who was a cop, and he suggested I call a guy he knew that had left the force to become a private investigator. Ron was great. I paid his retainer and gave him the emails and what little I knew about my wife's activities, and he figured out exactly what she was doing and where she was going. His report, detailed with photos and times, dates, locations, all about how she would take the kids to her parents, then go meet this guy for lunch, then they'd go to a dumpy motel for a few hours, after which she'd picked up the kids and return home. At this point, I hired a divorce attorney. My parents cheated on each other, and the fallout absolutely ruined mine and my siblings' childhood. It was something that was totally unacceptable. I also asked Ron to figure out what he could about this guy. Ron absolutely came through for me. I learned his name, Bob, and I also found out that he worked as a VP of sale for his father-in-law's business. At this point, I had my lawyer draw up the divorce papers. I also asked Ron for a couple more copies of his report and one more thing I wanted him to do for me. On the same day I had my wife served with the divorce papers at her job, I had Ron meet with the guy's wife and show her everything he had found out. She seemed nice, and I figured she deserved to know what her dear hubby was up to. What she did with that information was up to her. While the information about my wife's infidelity didn't really matter in my divorce proceedings, Bob's wife did a real number on him. According to the publicly available court documents from the divorce divorce and other related proceedings, she cleared out their joint account, took the kids, and left. As soon as her dad found out what he'd done, Bob was fired, and since her parents actually owned the house where Bob and his wife lived, he also got evicted. Their divorce was ugly. Lots of fighting in and evidently out of court. I guess Bob went to the house and started arguing with his wife, and it escalated to the point that her brother stepped in and Bob got his nose broken. There were restraining orders, a few more incidents with police reports, criminal charges, jail time, and so on. I can't find Bob on the internet anymore anywhere these days. Last I'd heard, he'd left the state. His ex-wife did okay. She went to work at her dad's company and ended up taking it over after he retired. As for me, my ex and I got along well enough. I didn't engage with her on anything that wasn't related to the kids, and now they're both adults. I don't really talk to her at all anymore. I don't hate her or anything, but the only care in the context is that she is my kid's mom and is important to them. Absolutely nothing beyond that. Wow, you sure took it to the next level here by hiring a PI to find out exactly what she's been up to, but honestly, good for you. Cheating is definitely a deal breaker for me too. If you were to do that to me, we are done. I don't care who you are. I don't care how long we've been together. That is completely unacceptable and personally not something I would be able to get over. So you definitely made the right call here for you and for your children. Why stay in a miserable marriage when your kids are just going to be miserable too? And seeing as you had it happen before with your parents growing up, you definitely made the right decision. I love that you got revenge. I love that you found a way to tell his wife as well, because she deserves to know at the end of the day what an absolute scumbag her husband is. So, all right, let's get into these comments here. The top comment on this post said, had to pause for a moment at the mention of AOL. That sure takes me back. Yeah, who uses AOL for their I almost said for their Gmail. Who uses AOL for their email anymore? I guess it still exists and it was one of the OGs. So someone replies under this comment and says, yeah, 2024 and my brother still uses AOL for mail. They moved close to us recently and we were visiting and we heard the old, "You've got mail," coming from his office. Hilarious. He just said, "It works fine for my needs." I mean, that's fair. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why get a different email if you don't have to? I mean, there's no reason for it. The next comment says, sorry for all of this happening to you. On the other hand, well played. You checked off all of the boxes and got it done. Yes, you did, my dear. You absolutely deserve an award for this. If I had a sticker to give you through the camera, I would. This next comment says, that's some serious maturity you had there without breaking down. Your ability to keep your sanity would be one of the most crucial things your kids will and should learn, in my opinion. I agree. You really showed them a good example. And, you said they're grown now, so maybe they know what happened, but if not, I hope that they were able to heal from all of this, because I imagine that would have to be pretty traumatic. And yeah, you definitely handled your cool. You exhibited a ton of emotional maturity. I think that would have just probably been the straw that broke my camel's back at that point, because wow, all those years and kids later. And also for her to sleep with someone that she was dating in high school. Girl, grow up. I am judging you so hard for that mistake. Like, grow up. That's immature. She deserved every bad thing that happened to her after this. This woman gets a 0 out of 10 for me. I have many notes. The last comment says, kudos to you for not letting your anger at your ex prevent you from working with her to make things not suck for your kids any more than they had to. Because divorce as a kid sucks no matter what, but parents can absolutely make it worse than it has to be. That is very true. I have seen it time and time again. I have read thousands of stories like that. I know people in my personal life that are like that. And if you can't get along, go get an attorney, go get a mediator or something. Don't make it miserable on the kids when it doesn't need to be. But all right, let's go ahead and get into this next story here. This next one comes from r/pro revenge as well. Trigger warning for anybody that has like religious trauma or mother-in-law trauma or anything like that. You might want to skip this story. It is definitely a longer one. I think it's worth the read, but if you're feeling a little sensitive today, I love you. Go ahead and skip. You're fine. No judgment. Go take care of yourself. This one says, my ex-mother-in-law sent her church friends to harass my daughters and I. I have now exposed her family to the church community and she's getting slammed and shunned at church. A 46-year-old female, daughters, 17 and 15-year-old females, have a strained relationship with my ex-husband's parents, who are 78 male and 80 female. Part of the drama has been my ex-in-laws trying to get custody of my daughters and them also trying to live with us, since due to his cheating and him leaving 2 boys born with his affair partner orphaned, she also died in the accident. Part of the drama has been my ex-in-laws trying to 1, get custody of my daughters, and 2, they've also been trying to live with us. First of all, we are going to court over. The second will never ever happen. Where we live, there's a weekend market with fresh produce, eggs, meats, and other products straight from farmers. This week was extra special since it was my youngest's birthday. Since her party is later in the month, I decided to give her a budget and set her loose on the market to get whatever she wanted, mostly chocolate and sweets. After about an hour, I did start getting worried, and just before I called her, she called me. She was crying, saying some weird people had cornered her at the market. I ran to her with my oldest daughter to find 6 older women berating my daughter for being unchristian, for refusing to spend time with her parental grandparents, or for wanting to be a good big sister to her poor orphaned brothers. My daughters are the ones that found out about my ex cheating and the babies, so they aren't fond of the kids, rightfully so. It's trauma and they are working through it with a therapist. I got between the group and my daughter, telling my eldest to go pay for the stuff she had and to go to the car. I then turned to the woman, some who I knew from when we went to my ex-in-law's church, and ripped them a new one. They told me I was the worst for refusing to obey my ex-in-laws like a good Christian wife. Barf. Eventually, the screaming turned too loud and we were all asked to leave the market. I met with my girls in the car, the woman following me like a group of vultures. I managed to get in the car and drove away. After my girls went to bed, I got online to talk to another member of that church that I'm on good terms with. I told him about what happened and he apologized profusely, and he told me what was going on. My ex-mother-in-law posted this massive story in the church's Facebook group about how horrible my daughters and I are, how we're leaving them homeless and penniless. They inherited my ex's personal bank account and his life insurance, and how my daughters don't even talk to them. She also accused us of being the reason why she lost her grandsons. The boys are now living with distant relatives of my ex-husband. Basically, it was a sob story worthy of a Hallmark movie, and of course, they were getting all the love and support from the more extremist members of the church. This church and its members are a bit annoying, especially with LGBTQ+ topics, but they have a small saving grace. They are incredibly strict about cheating. It is a big no-no, be it from husband or wife equally. Now, how did she get around to blaming me for the affair children without exposing the cheating? She claimed the other woman was our surrogate since I was unable to have more children. Then I said I didn't want the babies because they were boys, which is absolutely disgusting to be accused of. Well, I decided it was time to clean up this mess, and since I was mid-divorce when my ex died, I had all the evidence needed, and since the divorce wasn't completed, I don't have any legal ramification for releasing all of the evidence. I was off the next day and went to a print shop to get copies of all the delightful pictures of my ex cheating, his text conversations with his affair partner, the ones with his parents confessing to his cheating and getting support from them, my ex-in-laws harassing me about the divorce, and my coup de grace, all the emails and text messages of them bullying my daughters about their baby brothers. In one of them, they called my daughters bastards and told them it was their fault their father died since they told me about the affair and I began the divorce proceeding. This was literally 2 days after my ex and their father died. I paid extra for all of this to be printed in beautiful, high quality paper. Then when I got home, I sat down for hours to make delightfully personalized binders. They look like little prayer song packets the church gives for everyone to sing hymns out of. The first picture when opening the binders is my ex and his side woman making out in our living room. Their faces are easy to discern and the girl looks nothing like me. Different skin tone and hair color. Underneath, I wrote ex-husband's name and affair girl's name, love story. I took them to the church before service. There's a desk in the back with the songbooks for people that need/forgot their own, and they never check them. The gospel mill was quick and harsh. The names my ex and his affair partner got called in the Facebook group were so bad that the pastor himself had to get involved just to keep things relatively PG-13. People were angry at my ex-in-laws for their abuse to my daughters, but what made me laugh was that I was still in the wrong for the divorce, but it is understandable that I failed on my duties as the wife after the shock, and I possibly will one day return to the light, unlike my cheating husband and his Jezebel. They used another word I can't use here, I imagine. I got 2 apology letters in the mail and the invitation from the church to join their church for support. As for my ex-in-laws, they got shamed shamed into leaving the church. My ex-mother-in-law made a post on her wall about how alienated she feels and how no one cares for the elderly anymore. How she wished her great son was still alive since he would have taken care of her and her husband. With what money? I don't know, since I was the breadwinner. Explanation on the will. My ex-husband had a will that named his parents as beneficiaries. As far as I was aware, he had told me he had named our daughters, not them. I never pushed for me to be the beneficiary, as my own will has my daughters as the beneficiary and not him. Wow, what a whiplash of a story. First of all, OP, you are wonderful. You are a fantastic mom, and you are also a very strong woman. Absolutely, you should have started those divorce proceedings after you found out he cheated. Be so for real. You cannot be with somebody who cheated on you. Like I have said time and time again, and like I will continue to say, there are 8 billion people, that's billion with a B, people on this planet. Go find someone who worships the ground you walk on. You don't have to stay in a loveless marriage where somebody cheats on you and degrades you like that. The next point I want to make is about this church. This church sounds horrible. I am so sorry that you have been exposed to this. Religious trauma is no joke. This is unfortunately not the first time I've heard stories like this. I think that it's horrible for them to have treated you like that. And, you know, their son was clearly in the wrong. And this guy, obviously, I mean, you know, rest in peace, but he kind of sounds like a mama's boy. And I'm just really sorry that you've been through all this. But like I said, you are a very strong woman. You're a wonderful mother. You said your daughters are in therapy already. Good for you. That is literally the best thing that you can do for them. And I'm so proud of you. I think that you deserve a lot more than these awful, heinous, horrible people have ever given you or could ever give you. So keep your head up, stay strong. Things will get better. I am sending you and your kiddos so much love and good vibes. You guys deserve way more than anything that you've been given right now. And you know, it's not entirely inappropriate for you to cut them off too. If you want to go no contact with them, or you want to support your daughters in going no contact with them, no contact doesn't have to be forever, but it can be for right now until full healing has happened. And you know, I'm going to support you on whatever you choose because I am entirely on your side. But let's go ahead and see what these comments have to say. The first comment says, hitting religious zealots with proof of hypocrisy is always hilarious. The others will immediately exile them as public Christian image is too important. These people are what gives religion a bad name. I think it's a really easy way for people to power trip. I think it's a really easy way for men to control women. I think it's a really easy way of mind control if you're in the wrong setting. Okay, there are a lot of very religious people out there who are very emotionally intelligent. They are emotionally available. They know what to say. They know not to cross boundaries. People like this, though, these in-laws are absolutely disgusting creatures, and they are the ones that really give religion a bad name. And unfortunately, there are so many people like this out here. So the next comment says, ah, yes, I can only imagine who they all voted for. We're not going to say, but you guys know how I feel about that. Somebody responds to that and says, you can't spell hatred without red hat. Do you care if I steal that? That's a good one. The next one says, a bunch of old religious women accosting children in a market and shaming them in the name of their religion. That's just straight up Handmaid's Tale. America is so broken. The whole story is insane, but the OP doesn't even seem to grasp how truly, utterly broken society is to have to allow this 15th century garbage in the first place. I'm going to stop you there because we're not going to hate on the OP of this story. I think that she has a very good grasp in her head and her heart of exactly what's going on here. So we're not going to shame her. She's doing everything she can. She's doing her best. And also too, it is very bizarre to run into a religious person like this. Like I said, it's not exactly common. There are a lot of them out there, but I think most of them tend to be little keyboard warriors sitting here on their Facebook groups talking. And clearly that's what happened. So, all right. The last comment says, so fun fact, somebody did a study of estranged parents forums and estranged grown-up children forums to compare and contrast the attitudes therein. The adults always post vague stories and emphasize the emotions they are feeling. Example, child won't talk to me because this makes me feel bad. The children post evidence said, this is why I don't speak to my parents. Yeah, it's really sad when we have to cut people off for those reasons, especially when it's family. I can't even begin to imagine that type of hurt. I mean, I'm very blessed to have a wonderful relationship with my family, but my heart definitely goes out to anyone who's not, especially for these reasons, it makes it really easy to just, sit still and look pretty and do what you're supposed to be told. But I don't know. The whole thing about religion too is that it is heavily male centered. So I think that's why I don't like it either. The whole, oh, you just want to have kids and go to church on Sunday and you want to be a good Christian and be a good wife to that man. Ma'am, that man is cheating on you. That man is abusing you and you still can't leave him because the church will shun you. It's just a system to trap women. So whatever. I don't know. OP, if you're out there, I love you. You're brave. You're a badass. Your daughters are beyond lucky to have you. And I'm sorry that this is a battle you're going to have to fight for a while, especially with 2 affair children that are involved that, you shouldn't have to take them on. Those aren't your kids. If it's in your heart to, that's one thing. But if it's not in your heart to, and it does not have to be, then don't. I mean, you're making the right decision in all of this. And I sincerely hope that your journey gets easier for you from here on out. All right. The next story comes from r/confessions. And it says, I got the last laugh today against my brother and his wife. During the 2009 housing crash, I purchased a 4-bedroom home for $350,000 in Newport Beach. It's now valued at $1.75 million. I let my brother and his wife move in and they pay enough rent so I make a bit of money and the mortgage is covered. I could rent it out for $7,000 a month, but I charge them $2,500. I mostly did it for my 3 nephews. They go to a good school and I live in a very good area. Plus, I get to see them a lot, which I love. I do not get along with my sister-in-law. Recently, she and I got into an argument about moving in her sister and her husband. I said, absolutely not. I'm already subsidizing your rent and I'm not going to subsidize your families too. My brother and sister-in-law did sign a lease with general language about needing my approval to move in another tenant. My sister has never thanked me for letting them live there, despite her being one of the ones who benefits the most. She doesn't even have to work at all because of the rent that I charge. Well, my brother sided with her, so I'm going to both of you up. I changed my real estate plan from leaving my brother my house if I died to mandating that the house be put up for sale and having the profits be split between my 3 nephews. My brother was pissed and asked me why I did that. I said, to make sure your wife never gets my house. If I die, then you get it. Then if you die, then your wife gets it. Over my dead body. I'm not attached to the house. I just can't live with myself if there was even a 1% chance that some ungrateful bitch gets my house like she won the lottery. So now they're uncomfortable. Their housing is not as stable as they thought it was, and they can't afford to rent or buy a house either. I understand you not wanting to kick them out because of your nephews, and I think that that's just wonderful of you. I think you made the right choice, and yeah, she does sound ungrateful. How are you gonna live in somebody else's beautiful house for cheap as hell, so cheap to the point where you don't even have to work, and you're not even gonna say thank you? That's horrible. I'm so sorry that she's like that, but you can't control other people. You can only control your own actions, and it really seems like that you have controlled your actions in the best way possible, and I'm proud of you. Let's see what the comments say. The top comment says, make it so the money sits until they go to college or reach the age of 21, so that way she can't make excuses to get into it early. OP replies to this comment and says, I made it 25 years old, actually. Good job. Good for you. You really have your head screwed on straight. Maybe consult with a lawyer too, just in case if you're able to afford it. Really make sure that there's nothing that they can do to screw you over in the long run. The next comment says, wow, it may be even time for a rent increase with the current economy. I completely agree. If you could rent it out for $7,000 a month and you're only renting it out for $2,500, you are doing them the biggest favor in the world, especially right now with our housing crisis and everything just being in total chaos all the time. You are really doing them a favor, and you're a very nice person, and I'm sorry that they're taking advantage of your kindness. The next comment says, if they want to just be disrespectful, I would throw them out and rent it out at market value. Put extra money in the trust for the kids when they grow up. All right. The last comment says, I live in Orange County, and if I had a brother-in-law who'd let me live in a house for 25 period, I'd kiss the ground he walked on. Rent is so beyond expensive in Orange County. Like, it's disgusting. I really don't blame you. I have a sister-in-law who is a lot like yours, and I would have done the exact same thing. That's what I'm saying. Rent is horribly expensive right now. Anywhere you go. And I mean, if they want to live in Newport Beach, that's cool. That's fantastic. But they should downsize and live within their means. And what happens if there's some big giant blow up that happens between you guys and they get kicked out? Would you want to have rental stability, having a safe place to live is so important, and feeling secure and safe in that place is also very important. These people are kind of seem like menaces to society. Maybe they should have been in last Thursday's episode instead, but we're gonna move along to the last story of the day. It is midnight when I'm recording this, and ya girl is ready for bed. Alrighty, the last one also comes from r/confessions, and it says, I broke my left arm on purpose and it did the job. When I was 12, I broke my arm/wrist intentionally by falling down the stairs at school. I had been really dizzy and I was having a lot of headaches, and I was fairly sure I needed glasses, but my mom wouldn't listen or take me to the eye doctor for some reason. I had broken my right wrist already, so I knew what it felt like, and I knew if it was more severely injured than before, they would be forced to address the situation. I knew I needed to do it at school when there were cameras and witnesses and no one could accuse my parents of anything sinister, so I waited for a day when I knew one of my teachers would let me leave mid-class to go to a different floor. I threw myself up the stairs, tore a bunch of cartilage in my elbow, shattered my growth plate in my wrist, and got an eye doctor appointment. I was already an injury-prone kid. ADHD spatial awareness for the win. This did not get massively better, unfortunately, so no one questioned it. Relatable. I hated my glasses. Think aggressively unsexy librarian, but I needed them just as much, and I regret the lengths I had to go to. I'm so glad I got them finally. Your mom should have taken you to the doctor if you couldn't see. You were a smart kid. You did what you had to do, but I'm also really sorry that your mom didn't believe you and that you had to go to these lengths to be able to prove that you needed something for your own health. Yeah, that's pretty sucky of her, but hopefully you're doing better now. All right, the top comment says, I'm really sorry your mom failed you like that. No kid should feel the need to injure themselves just to be heard about their other needs. I completely agree. I think that's the really sad part of the story. And the fact that you also got the most unsexy glasses in the entire world, like, you should be able to feel confident in yourself, but I guess that's kind of a discussion for a different day. The next comment says, I didn't have to go through these lengths with my mom, but I did have to make issues big and react and create a problem or a scene somehow to get my mom to notice there was a problem or get help. Bit me in the ass one day because I grew up with some historic behavior as a coping mechanism. Curbed that real quick in my late 20s, but now I over-explain and justify and throw all of the evidence and facts at someone immediately so they can't ignore me or make excuses. They have to listen. I hate it. Thanks, Mom. Neglect doesn't always look like it does in the movies. Oh, this post is making me sad. I'm sorry for you guys. You guys all deserve better. Everybody deserves a mom who loves them, and I'm so sorry that you guys don't have that. That really makes me sad. The next comment says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger was drilled into my head as a kid. Enduring physical or emotional discomfort without complaint was expected. The other day, I was having a medical procedure done. This time, it was really painful. Something was stabbing me, and it's not a quick thing. It's a 5-hour procedure, but I was so afraid to complain. Luckily, the nurse could tell something was wrong and she fixed it with ease and asked why I didn't say anything. I had a revelation right then. I was trained not to complain. You were trained to be a people pleaser, to just sit still and look pretty and be a good little kid who didn't ever say what was wrong. And again, I'm so sorry that that's been your experience. I hope that you all on this post are able to get some type of therapy and hopefully be able to heal from this, because this is incredibly painful. The next comment says, my situation as a kid was similar. Couldn't see the board, couldn't tell which blurry scribble was which. Parents didn't want to buy me glasses, although both were myopic. It wrecked their idea that I was the perfect child. Hated school because the other kids laughed at me and my obviously wrong answers. When my first grade teacher threatened to hold me back, they finally relented and took me to an optometrist. First time I could see clearly and I could read just fine. I understand that it is somewhat difficult for children to be able to understand and explain fully kind of what they're going through. But if your child is coming to you with a problem and you are not equipped as a parent to listen and learn, maybe you should seek help from outside sources. And there is nothing wrong with that whatsoever. There are a ton of free and even affordable options for you out there to where you can get your kid the necessary help that they need. You can help them express what they're going through so that you can understand their needs. You're still a perfect child, even if you don't have perfect vision. Boo-hoo. Your parents suck for for that comment. I'm sure that really hurt your self-esteem growing up. And I'm sure that really hurt your confidence too. All right, the last comment we're gonna read, because now things are getting soggy. It says, it's a shame you have so many rubbish parents out there. People have kids for all the wrong reasons. I completely agree, and that really makes me sad and breaks my heart. I apologize for this episode kind of taking a sad turn, but it is really good to have awareness out there that these issues do exist. It is really important for people to be able to share their stories now as they grow up into adults, because I think that sharing your story and sharing your truth is a form of healing. So, okie dokie. Bonus story number 1 comes from r/petty revenge, and it says, someone kept hitting their car door into my car door while I was in it, so I returned the favor. I was parked in a student parking structure and was stuck on a phone call before heading out. An SUV that pulled in next to me, and for a few minutes, one of the girls had her door open while she was looking through the back seat. The door kept banging into my car, and I looked over to see that she was not paying attention. When all was said and done, her other friend came out from the other side of the car, and they both left. I noticed the friend pointing out that her door was hitting my car, and that's when she looked and saw me sitting in my car. I shook my head at her after seeing the situation and saw that she was chuckling. I didn't say anything because I was still on the phone. They were long gone by the time I finished my call, so I pulled my car to park on the other side of her car and proceeded to slam my car door into hers repeatedly until some dents started caving in. My car is super old, so no big deal, but just because it's old doesn't mean that people should be careless about it. Anyways, it went fine, and I feel a lot better about the situation overall. Edit, yes, this is a real story. No, I don't care about karma on Reddit. I was on the phone with my provider after being on hold for a long time to go over my labs, so I sure as hell did not hang up for that. This event happened months ago, and I no longer go on that campus. Sorry if it bothers you that I got away with it. Hope this has addressed all my frequently asked questions, and I'm glad this is a space for you guys to share your similar horror stories too. I can't say that I blame you one bit. Sometimes if karma isn't going to kick in fast enough, you just need to be the one to step in and do it. Also, the fact that she just sat there and laughed at hitting your car. What a bitch. What an inconsiderate human being. I think this was well deserved. I hope that her car was significantly nicer than yours. I hope it was just a nice car in general, and that those dents cost her a lot of money to get out, because this was well deserved. The top comment says, she chose to laugh about it, and now you're the one laughing. Very true. Like I said, you just stepped in when karma was taking a little bit too long. You just took the job and made it a little bit easier for her. The next comment says, let's face it, ladies, my car is old and I have better insurance. That you do, my friend. I bet you do have better insurance, because older cars get cheaper insurance than newer cars for whatever reason. Make that make sense. The next one says, don't mess with someone who has nothing to lose. Very true. Someone responds to this comment and says, I've always preferred don't f with someone you don't know. Yeah, you never know how unhinged people are gonna be, and maybe the car door slamming into her car door. I just realized my back lamp was not on because Jupiter climbed up and is in the pillows. So ignore that. It's on now. It's pretty. We're going to get back into it. My bad. The next comment says, I actually had the same thing happen. I was sitting in my car waiting for my wife, and this dumbass dude parks next to me, gets out of his car, and bangs his door into my passenger side door. I would have been okay with it. Accidents happen. I get it. But the a-hole looks right at me and gives me the stink eye like he's the one being put out. So yeah, his car definitely got dinged that day. Good. You know what? These a-holes of society really deserve to get a taste of their own medicine and be put in their own place. I love revenge. The next comment says, my car is far from dent free, but if someone is adding more through sheer neglect and contempt, I am kicking their door in. The last comment says, I was at a Casey's gas station waiting in the car for the hubs, and some young guys parked next to me on my driver's side. One went inside and 3 remained in the car. They were talking and laughing and had semi-loud music going on. Didn't bother me much. I enjoyed seeing them having fun. But then the front passenger door opened, and his door just sat there with the door open. He kept rocking it with his foot, and it kept hitting my car. Not hard, but definitely enough to be felt. I casually rolled down my window and caught the edge of the door. He noticed it get stuck, and when he saw me hanging onto it, he apologized, closed his door, and turned the music down. Wow, well, you know, at least that kid had more manners than the grown grown woman in the parking lot. But you never know. People are just crazy and unhinged. And you also never know when you're going to run into someone equally as crazy or equally as unhinged as yourself. So be careful out there. Don't mess with people you don't know. All right. The very last bonus story of today comes from r/nuclear revenge. This one says, hell hath no fury like two women scorned. Say goodbye to all your stuff. 15 years ago, I had a boyfriend that I'd been with for 6 years. He moved to another city for work while I finished my studies, and then I would move there too. He was apartment hunting, subleasing in the meantime. He came home almost every weekend during Christmas and New Year's. He found an apartment in January and invited me up to show it, and I prepared to move, looking for a job, looking for new furniture, etc. Late February, I told him it's time to terminate the lease on the apartment in our hometown when he suddenly broke up with me. I was shocked and very sad. He collected some clothes and his very expensive PC, which he'd built from scratch. It was his baby. 2 weeks later, he updated his profile picture on Facebook to him and another woman kissing. Obviously, they hadn't been dating for more than 2 weeks. I called him out on it, and he admitted to having met her 2 months ago. He was at the airport to travel abroad with his buddy for the weekend, so we didn't talk that long. The same evening, I decided to tell the new girlfriend. I managed to find her on Facebook and wrote her. She didn't believe me at first, of course, but I sent her the texts, pictures, and described their apartment in detail. Well, her apartment, as it turned out. When I'd sent her a nude picture he had sent me with their bedroom clearly in the background, she said, okay, enough, I believe you. She told me they had been dating for 8 months, not 2. She had been in Africa for 2 months in December and January, which would explain why he was able to be with me for 2 weeks over the holidays and why he could invite me to see the apartment. We wrote a lot. He sent us the exact same Valentine's Day text. He bought us the exact same Christmas present, etc. You get the picture. After comparing notes, it was time for revenge. She cut up all of his clothes and left them in a pile on the floor. I told her about the PC and advised her to tear that to pieces. She hacked it with screwdrivers, hammers, and every piece was well beyond saving. When he came home on Sunday, she tossed him out with nowhere to go, but not before showing him all of his possessions obliterated. Edit, I need to clarify that legally, it was my PC. I'd won money on one of those scratch-off lottery tickets, but since we were living together, I kind of thought of it as ours. Huge mistake. That is some professional level revenge. The only thing I know about gamers and computer nerds like that, especially the type of people that build computers, is that is their baby. That is their whole lifeline. So the fact that you just destroyed that to get revenge, that's very nuclear. You absolutely destroyed his life, and rightfully so. If he's gonna send you the exact same Valentine's Day text, he didn't care about either of you. You know what? This man is for the streets, and I'm glad that you left him where he belongs, out on the corner with the trash. The top comment says, as someone who built my PC and spent months researching part compatibility and even saved up for it, I built a system once every 7 to 9 years. I can fully say with my whole chest, I love my wife very dearly. That you do. That's a good boy. You don't ever want to cheat, because you're right. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. We will destroy you, and rightfully so. The next comment says, this story warms my jaded heart. The next one says, it's nice to see women supporting women. Yeah, that's very fair too. The fact that she actually chose to believe you and didn't just block you and choose to ignore it. Good for her as well. I mean, you both dodged a massive bullet with this loser. The next comment says, damn fellas, the ladies finally figured it out. All they need to do is get us to act right and give us a stern look and threaten our home-built PC with a belt at the same time. Yeah, how about you try being nice to women? It's actually pretty fun to be nice to us. We can definitely be nice to you back, but if you're gonna treat us bad, then you know what, honey? You had it coming. There's a whole Carrie Underwood song about this. I think it goes, dug my key into the side of his pretty little souped up 4-wheel drive. You think that we didn't grow up on that song? You think that that wasn't on replay on our CD players growing up as kids? You are painfully wrong. All right, the last comment says, good. Let the hatred flow through you. You know what? Good job. Men have been getting away with crap for too long. I love to see people getting revenge where it was rightfully deserved, and I feel like all these were deserved. So which story was your favorite today? Who do you think got the best, most profound revenge out of everybody? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Again, happy 420, babes. We're about to go out and have fun and celebrate. I'm gonna go do some gardening now, but I love you guys so much. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you on Tuesday for the next one. Bye!